Okay, carrying forward our artist series, I wanted to explore Cubism today. I don't think we have done this before because here, this is one art form that I respect, but it does not really gel so much with my sensibilities. In the beginning, I used to think that this was all, you know, propaganda. Somebody tells you that this is intelligent art, and therefore, if you don't like it, then you are less intelligent. If you don't understand it, then you don't, there's something wrong with you. But over time, I realized that some of it is true, some of what they say is true. And the reason we don't understand, I think as Indians, we don't understand it, is because this comes almost as a result of a lot of things that have happened before. And we have not been in touch with many of these art movements, especially as what I like to call muggles, who've not gone to art college, who don't really know the subject, who've not had interaction, and we don't really have galleries and museums that exhibit this art and speak about it. So we look at it like we've just been thrust into it. We don't know what's happened before. We don't know the context. And now we are expected to respond to it, and that too favorably. That seems a little unfair. So I'm going to recommend that if you have the time, do a little bit of reading on just Cubism. Look for one article by some renowned gallery, maybe. Often galleries like Tate, MoMA, uh, they have articles written on particular artists. And starting from there, you will come across some terms which will lead you into adjacent rabbit holes about other art movements from that time. Obviously, there's so much written about this that I can't cover the theory in one shot, but it is fascinating. It's wonderful how art becomes representative of so much that is happening in the world. So my contention always has been that you, one second. Yeah, so I've um, some time ago I came to this realization that certain pieces of art are gallery worthy for several reasons. Sometimes it is just the popularity of the artist, but very often that piece of art becomes like a slice of that time. It is representative of a certain mindset of things that are happening in the world. And even if the piece does not say anything political, it does not speak of, it's not a montage of stuff that is happening in the world, it's not like a newspaper headline. It represents through color, through form, that the goings on of that time. So when you see it in a gallery, it instantly takes you back to a time, and it evokes that era. So I experienced this when I traveled through the US, UK, even Dublin, and many of the galleries, even in France, you will notice this national galleries where they keep epic pieces of art. When you see the artwork in front of you, there's something that just happens. For us, we are still uh, we still react to the tangible. So when you look at a piece of paper which has got charcoal lines, and it dawns on you that these lines were made 500 years ago by Leonardo da Vinci, that still makes an impact. At least it made an impact on me. Similarly, when you go see a painting face to face, which was touched by Picasso or Van Gogh, automatically our acceptance of that artwork begins. Then, when you start interacting with the artwork, it matters that you see it in its size, in the size that it has been intended to be. You stand in front of it at a distance that you were meant to be, and then you respond to it very differently. If you could have seen these pictures in books or magazines and read a whole lot about it, but it's still not the same experience as when you see it in person. So what these pieces represent is more than what they show on the face. So when we look at pictures by Picasso, these paintings are representative of a lot of thought, a lot of the history, geography, scientific development, political scenario around that time. Um, a lot of the artworks or paintings after the 19th century have had a lot to do with interaction of people and expressing the thoughts of either a people or the artist's impression of what is happening around them. In the past, it used to be the artist's impression of something that ought to be seen by people. So you would have biblical scenes, you would have scenes of war, you would have portraits of royalty or nobility in positions that made you feel in awe of them. So everything was designed for us to, or at least not us, people in those countries to respond in a very defined manner. When it came to Impressionism, that started changing a little bit. It was almost as if the brief that the artists gave themselves changed. They were no longer required to make scenes look exactly like somebody else dictated. They got more control over what they wanted to show and how they wanted to show it. So they would pick up scenes from daily life and start showing those. Then that changed into not just showing stuff from daily life, the manner in it which I want to show it also changes. So you have something like Impressionism, you have Expressionism, which was also very, very loud and very strong. And then moving into something where it was more an esoteric exploration of the artist translated into color and form and made visual. So Cubist artists were, at least in as far as Picasso and George Braque were concerned, their thought was to take that which is three-dimensional, and we're trying so hard to make an object look three-dimensional on a flat canvas. Their exploration was about how you can take something three-dimensional and convert it to a flat geometric shape and yet convince the viewer that they are seeing what they are seeing. So they went into a different kind of abstraction. So this is, I suppose this would be almost like, again, removing the details as much as possible and keeping it as abstract as possible and yet giving you a thought. So in a sense, this made the line like poetry. The difference between a novel and a poem is the length and the detail that you land up giving it. A novel will take pages and pages to describe something, whereas in a poem, it might be said in a word. And that word will allow you to imagine a whole lot of stuff. So that is how I think these things changed. Now, if we look at the paintings, there's something very interesting we notice. And maybe we can have a discussion about this, and you could just express what you see without any other background.
I could see, just come to my mind is that a fear, some fear or scare that I can see through the eyes.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? You'll see
Maybe the
something.
conversation. I mean, I felt it's like a conversation.
Conversation, okay. Okay, do you see a face? You definitely see a face, right?
Yeah.
Do you see an expression on the face? What kind of expression? Ritika says it looks fearful. Any other expression?
It's
Worried, like worried,
worried
like
and
someone biting their
tears,
nails, but
Worry,
it seems to
biting
be
the
feeling
nails.
something more than biting nails.
Mm-hmm.
tears. There are tears.
Yes. Yeah, correct. So the reason I'm asking you this is because there is a title to this painting, but I have not written the title. And it seeing something after you have been told what to see is a very servile way of receiving art. And I would like you to have a thought about this piece without me giving you detail. I am going to tell you this because it's fun, but there will be more things that you might see, but we don't usually express it for ourselves. So I'm going to give
So,
you some questions.
they had at the Museum of Modern Art in Bombay,
Hmm.
they had an exhibition of Picasso where a lot of his these portraits were there, of the ladies that he has painted.
Yes.
And so one of the things that they said there was that he had a lot of these relationships, and then when he broke up, he would normally paint a portrait in retaliation and try and make the women look as ugly as possible because he was so mad at them. So I thought that was like quite funny. But yeah,
Poor girls, and they forever they
I
would be
know.
immortalized in their ugliest self.
Exactly.
So her ear is pinched,
Yes, okay.
and it looks like the eyes, they
Hmm.
look like spoons
Yeah.
which are mangled into something else.
Hmm. Hmm.
And to me, it also looks like that, how, I mean, like an individual's mental health might be. Like, you cannot speak out, so, you're just shouting inside. Something is happening like that.
Yeah, that could be it. Now, I'll tell you what I see, and see if you can also observe that. If we just look at the eyes, they almost look as if the eye socket has been drawn differently. The eyeball has been drawn out of the eye socket and very shaggy lashes. The eyes look like broken glass almost, like shattered, and that makes it look as if it's weeping. The white part, curiously, the face in front of the face, you have this white part. Doesn't that look like a handkerchief?
She's biting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it almost looks like she's biting it. Then there are two hands. They seem to be, now he was a very prolific painter, so I don't know whether the hands belong to the lady or someone else. The thumbs on the inside are square, the fingers on the outside are round. So there's a lot of stuff happening over here.
And some the fingernails also look double up as tears.
Here's exactly. A part of the folds of the handkerchief also become the like a nose bridge. So there's many things that happen, and what I think makes paintings like these classic would be that anytime you come back and you see this painting, you might see something else. The context, if you change the context for your life, you will find something else revealing over here. Now, again, the colors used are quite basic. They're not they're not too blended. They're pretty flat and very almost very graphic. So that makes the whole picture almost look as if these are paper cutouts and they've just been pasted. So that is the treatment. The wall behind is just stripes, just panels. Her clothing, if this is clothing, is just a black shape with these lines that make it look like either stitching or fur. It could be lots of different things. This one was, I think this painting was there at that exhibition. I went to an exhibition in 2002, and I came back with a mug with this painting. I think this was the poster for the exhibition. Now here, I am not sure whether this is a painting or a print. It almost looks like a print because you can see distinct colors which are then painted one on top of the other. This could also be a painting. But again, lots of things happening over here. Each of these lines tries to say something very briefly. You may get it, you may not get it. Now here the lines are not very cube-like compared to the first picture we saw. Here, very, very strictly straight lines and a few ovals here or there. And in this painting, there are hardly any straight lines except for the back of the chair, and everything else is more fluid. Here again, it's more distorted. It's just a crazy distortion. And if you think about it, this picture almost looks as if it's been painted by a child. And I think by now that sentiment is very well known, that Picasso was such a prolific painter, but he yearned to paint like a child again. So he wanted to unlearn all of his skill and come down to a very spontaneous, basic line structure that showed energy and showed abandon. Now, as a young person, when I would see something like that, it made no sense. There are a bunch of Indian artists also who paint a very, very graphic Cubist style. I'll try to remember their names and I'll share them with you. You might find them on the net. There's something about this painting that only later I find interesting enough or arresting enough. There's some kind of energy in the lines. So I think after you've gone through a certain amount of exposure to art, exposure to fine art, fine lines, only then can you appreciate something that is as deliberately crude and spontaneous as this picture. How hard we try not to have patchy paints. And look at him, he is just deliberately trying to make his painting patchy. So this painting, the Guernica, was made in response to the Spanish Civil War. When you look at the painting, the first instinct that you might have is that the painting is pretty grotesque. Everything is just screaming. The lines are so aggressive and sharp. And there's a lot of overlaps. Everything seems to be collapsing into each other. And the faces all have dread in them. So if you distill what you see, then he has succeeded in conveying the emotions that one goes through whenever you are faced with turbulence. Moving on to, yeah. So
Aditya, does like how Subodh Karekar also showed, like in his paintings, the normal expressions are very different. The eyes are so big, or the lips on the teeth are. So is it somehow also inspired by this cubism?
it could be, yeah, certainly. There are a lot of artists who have focused a lot on the eyes simply because we can translate the eyes emotions better than other facial features. It becomes a lot easier. And there's so much detail in the eyes also. You can do so many things with it. So yeah, it's very possible. Even if you just make the eyes and don't make anything else, the face can convey emotion. Now the other paintings, let me see if these are. This is just a Cubist painting. I don't think this is Picasso. There's another name written over here. I'm not very sure. But Picasso also painted topics like these. You had some inanimate objects like musical instruments. You had usually a bottle of wine or some glass or something like that. So this was the kind of still life that was painted. You had portraiture, and very rarely I don't think they ever made any landscapes as such. So the breaking up of stuff was mostly uh, restricted to humans, because I suppose with buildings, there's already a lot of geometry. So how much more geometry can you do? So what I want you to do is very simple. You have to just choose one picture and try to replicate that in our watercolor style. But if you have crayons, or if you have color pastels, not so much color pencils, because we don't have such nice fine line detail, you could do a mix of the two. So make a base coat in watercolor, and then in some places you can enhance those colors using chalk or color pastels. If you have tape, uh, washi tape or masking tape, use that so that we can get nice fine edges. I think you will all be able to proportion it. I'll just share how to proportion the picture. So normally we do a whole lot of gridding. We will make a vertical, horizontal center line. That of course will help you. So just to give yourself an idea of how all the lines are placed and how the composition has come together, some kind of grid might help you. But I'm going to advise you to not stick too much to the grid and work more with instinct. So start drawing the lines. Maybe you can, before you make the frame, make the lines, make the drawing, and then around the drawing, you can decide on the frame. So I'm making my picture about this big, not too big. And I'm going to start with just a line for the nose. Arya? Are you there? When you were doing research and finding out information about these artists, a few questions that you should look for. We usually start with the obvious. We would say something about who is, I guess, go by the who, what, where, and ask as many questions that start with all of these. So, what is Cubism? Who were Cubists? Who was Picasso? Where did Cubism begin? Why did the Cubists paint the way that they did? When did Cubism become popular? How did it impact art? What do Cubists aim? How to paint like Cubists? What were the movements before and after? So starting with these questions on Google, you will come across some articles. I have seen interesting articles by Tate, then MoMA sometimes has, Britannica sometimes has nice ones. Some of them will insist that you register. If it's free registration, please go ahead. They will send you articles also. And once in a while, if you really get good information from some website, please do consider paid membership as well. as people who enjoy art, we should once in a while support people who are doing so much for it. Oh, sorry, this is my line. Now, when you're making this design, try to draw the lines as they were intended. Draw short, straight lines. Don't hesitate and do not second guess. And in the event that you feel that your line is wrong, just let it be. Just try to see what happens if you do not correct your line. We are trying to make a study over here. So we are not really making a forgery of the painting. So a few lines might look different, that's okay. But don't compromise on the energy of your lines. There are a couple of wonderful movies on Picasso, but unfortunately, they focus so much on his relationships with women rather than his art that I found them no better than a soap opera. So when you're drawing this, you will firsthand, I suppose, experience the conversion of um, familiar features into, again, familiar, easy to make, but almost inappropriate shapes or forms. So in this, we get almost like a lesson in what one can do to convert an object into one form or one form into another form. And if you use this effectively, you might be able to apply this to simplify your art as well. The purpose of this exercise is to force ourselves to do something that we would never do. I would never be able to break up a face like that. I know for sure. No matter how hard I try, I just cannot stick to the requirements of an abstract piece of art. Somewhere or another, I start making very refined lines. Now, ironically, in order to make refined lines better, a little bit of a study of a contrasting style has helped me. I cannot explain why that's the case, but it has happened that I will make an artwork like this and I start seeing other things clearly. I will start seeing shapes in more detail. So I have a theory about that. In our pursuit of seeing certain objects and trying to make them absolutely perfect, we get so emotionally tangled that we perceive things with our brains, not seeing them with our eyes. And so we draw what we perceive. And very often, because of that emotional entanglement, we draw almost like a representative sentiment, not the actual object. So there are certain, I guess, deformities in our picture which we just cannot explain. Now, in this particular case, each line is more, I feel, representative of that perception deliberately. So it is meant to be distorted. Once you experience this distortion, making lines more out of objective observation rather than an emotional response becomes easy. So I'd like to explain this further. I don't want it to sound like how people like to make art sound unnecessarily complicated with very long-winded words. It's not all fluff. So, for example, often a beginner who has to draw, say, um, still life, will draw certain forms like this. If you have an apple, they will draw. Imagine a scene where there's an apple, a glass, and some fabric. So you will start drawing the apple. One side is often drawn well, then the other side something goes wrong, and they feel that this needs to be changed. This is a matter of ability. So then they will erase it and try to draw it, and whatever they do, they cannot draw this line going up as they would like. Okay, they move on to the glass. Whenever you see a glass or a hollow container, you will see that it has a mouth. Then you draw lines. Again, because of lack of ability, sometimes one line is straight, one line is more curved. They get distressed over here, they want to erase. But often they will not see the round curve on the base, but they will perceive that the glass is flat. And they will always draw a flat line at the base of the glass and then wonder why their picture is looking two-dimensional. So here's where I feel the cubists have deliberately taken these lines. What do I perceive and how do I want to draw it on paper so that I can continue for the illusion of flatness rather than do what the classic painters did and make my flat surface, which is a canvas, look like it is three-dimensional and a real person is standing in front of me. Do you get what I mean? Because I absolutely do not want it to sound bigger or more mysterious than it is. Right, now most of my drawing is done. At this stage, I feel I can make my frame. This way, I'm not restricted by my frame to draw whatever I'm drawing. If the picture is expanding, let it expand to its limits, and then I will set my frame. I can complete my picture. Some of my proportions are pretty off, but I'm okay. Oh, here's something interesting. Uh, these two things have gone in two different places. This looks like the corner of the building, of the room. And this could be I guess the skirting. And I have by mistake made uh, the corner much lower than the skirting, but I'm just going to let it be because I want to see what happens if I were to just not adjust this. Arya, are you there or not?
I'm actually there. I'm trying to draw too.
Okay, so if you have a problem since you joined late, just ask me, okay? And you can chat if you want. I know you chat a lot during class, so you're more than welcome to share your ideas here also.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now it's just about painting. And as usual, we will paint light to dark colors. First paint all the light shades, then paint all the darker shades. And one thing you can do over here, like we did with Monet, is again to not really concern yourself too much with how fine the color looks, how even the painting is. So even in that sense, you really get to stretch the legs of your watercolor. Experiment, use dry color, use the wrong size brush. Sometimes if there's an overflow, just let it go. See what happens. The white sections, you could try to keep them unpainted instead of painting white. There's another thing about Picasso's explorations with dimension that's often spoken about. You'll come across this. So think of it like almost a problem to solve, or depending upon how you're looking at it, a problem to create or address. We are making a painting on a two-dimensional surface. We are making a representation of something that is three-dimensional. How can we show the three-dimensionality of an object without compromising the two-dimensionality of the paper? Now, if you think that this is like one of those topics that requires mental gymnastics, you are not too far. These are the kinds of things that I suppose artists are often blamed for when they are supposedly staring into space. What are you thinking? And then they say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. The two-dimensionality. I mean, I sound very much like that Swami Nityanand. The two-dimensionality of paper should not be compromised by the three-dimensionality of the subject. It's spot on what he says. So the seemingly, I guess, talking in puzzles that artists seem to do is the high intelligent explorations that often we are accused of not understanding because we just don't have that intelligence. But it's not difficult if you know what they're talking about. So again, if you know the context, it's very easy to grasp it. So if I say, I want you to draw a flower that looks like a flower, but it should look flat on paper. You could argue that the paper is flat, whatever I draw, it is going to look flat. But you'd be surprised how easily even a single line can convey curvature. The moment you do that, your picture is disqualified. So if you give yourself very strict requirements and try to stick to that, soon you'll notice that it is rather difficult to make a three-dimensional object to truly look two-dimensional but retain its identity when you bring it to canvas. So if I were to draw a flower like this, it does look flat, but I can make it flatter. This itself looks fairly rounded. What if then I still have to show that it's a three-dimensional flower. So here it does not look three-dimensional, it just looks like a paper flower. So what if I do something like this? It looks like just abstract shapes. But then I can draw something like this. And then change the color. Make a few shapes that in themselves will never be seen on the flower, but could convey the three-dimensionality of the flower. So this flower will look like it is looking sideways. But each of these shapes you will not see in the flower at all. So this is, I guess, what you, if you are an expert at anything, at some point or another, you will tend to challenge yourself. If you're a great cook, you will take on a recipe that is hard. You may not speak of it in such abstract terms, like you may not want to make something vegetarian that tastes like non-veg, for example. But that is one exploration. That is a creative exploration. So at one point when you are proficient in what you're doing, you start becoming impatient with doing the same thing over and over again. And at that point, you will start challenging your own skill. So these exercises in mental gymnastics are something like that.
Aditi, can
Yeah.
you see this?
Yes. Oh, wow. How pretty is that? Beautiful. Is this in crayon?
Yeah, oil pastel. So I
One,
did all the sketching with oil pastel and then gave it washes wherever the block colors were.
how beautiful is that? Oh, very nice. So nice. Oh my God, it's just gorgeous. I love it.
Ah, nice, Ritika, lovely.
See, it's just isn't it just so much fun to
Yeah,
do
Yeah.
this?
I was like, I mean, your mind has no foundations, how you have to do it, and you just go and let it free.
yeah,
No one is judging you.
It's and
correct.
that freedom is so it's like right there, but we choose to bind ourselves to some idea that it has to be
Yeah, that
perfect, it has to be a certain color. I'm not getting the right shade, I'm not getting the right line. And then you do something like that, and everything just breaks. All your preconceived ideas of good are challenged.
Yes.
yeah, actually. Oh, it looks so cute.
Okay, now I'm gonna add a challenge to this. Look for 2, 3 items around you. Maybe there's a glass. Just 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry. Sunday duties, Toby. Okay, so what I was saying was you could take some objects or actually just try making another kind of face, which is which has maybe what you could try is try texture on it instead of just color. Alka, you could try one of your cats.
There was one sitting here just now, she's gone off.
So
Yeah.
how do you make a cubist cat? That almost seems to be as if somebody should have done it by now. Cubist cat. Sounds
Yeah.
like a nice band name.
Yes, I will try that. That sounds nice.
This is one topic though I would love to do in oil. I think it would be very nice, good fun. Before I forget, I just wanted to announce next Sunday, next Saturday, we won't have class. And next Sunday, I'm doing another workshop with Camlin. That will be live again, same like last time. So that's on the 17th. I will share details of that in the coming week. So, but you can let people know by word of mouth. I think it will be from 10 or 11 in the morning. So maybe they can, you can ask people to make some time. This time I'm going to do postcards. So India-centric postcards. I'll share pictures of what I'm going to make. But this painting, making the hair is actually going to become quite fun. Huh? It's got these undertones of all the other colors. It's got blues, purple. So it's almost as if he's taken all the leftover colors and painted the hair and then made dark black lines on top of it. All these are very interesting treatments to use in your own style of painting. So yesterday I was speaking with a group of, no, a couple of students who come for the live class, and we were speaking again about, what were we doing yesterday? Yeah, the difference between what is good art and what is skillful art. So it may be relevant here also, but I'd like to share what the topic turned to. So the way I see art is slightly different from how I used to see it before. We are brought up thinking that there is a certain standard of art. There are certain experts, there are people who are, I hate to use the word and I'd never use it voluntarily, people who are born talented. And just yesterday I've had a debate about this. I don't believe that people are born talented. They just work towards it. So talent is one thing, and creating artwork which looks so beautiful that you cannot replicate it is a result of that kind of talent. You have people like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and some, even today, artists who make those hyper-realistic portraits, they just look like impossible paintings to replicate. So yes, all respect and all given, no doubt. But then there is another aspect to art, and that is its appeal. So there are so many times when you come across art which does not look like it is high skill. Now, the fact that you were able to replicate one of Picasso's paintings is evidence that maybe skill was not important over here. But then what was? So another question you could ask is, do you find that these paintings have a certain appeal? So if they do have an appeal, yet they are not high skill, why do they seem to have that appeal? So the discussion was about what we find appealing and what we define as high skill are two different aspects of painting. Sometimes they exist together in a painting, and sometimes you will find one existing and the other one missing. And yet the painting can be appealing. And I feel now, almost because it's a mathematical possibility, that if there is one missing, then the other might also be missing. Like you might have a highly skilled painting which is totally unappealing. I can't think of any painting like that, but I'm willing to accept that that might be a possibility. So in our pursuit of excellence, we should not forget that appeal has also got some value. Now, as the discussion went forward, what I was trying to tell them was that very often we find something appealing, but it is imperfect also. And we often dismiss it. But if we don't dismiss it, especially if it is something that we do as our style, and we are willing to objectively look at it and say, this thing I do, which would be considered a flaw, I like it. I like it that my lines are shivery or my lines are scratchy. I like how the lines look. They make a particular picture look good. If we can look at our work that objectively, then we might get closer to developing our own style. So here's the thing, everyone wants to make something unique and original, but that pursuit is so vague and so unplanned. It almost seems as if your pursuit of perfection is basically just throwing darts at a wall in the dark and then hoping that somebody else yells and says, "Arey wow, you hit the jackpot." So it does not have to be that vague, that exploration. When you look at a painting and you look at it objectively, yeah, and even subjectively for that matter, you can look at different parts of the painting and conclude for yourself if you find one or the other aspect of the painting appealing. Does it look pretty? That happens often. You will look at something and something looks like, if we have flowers, maybe the flowers, the watercoloring of the flowers will look good. Maybe the outline is not too firm. That's something that you feel you might want to work on. But few days later, when you come back and look at your painting, it might look impressive enough for you to even put it up. And then over a few days, it grows on you. And then you like it so much that you feel you want to use that style to make cards or a calendar or something like that. So that process of dwelling in your skill, living with your artwork, and allowing yourself to enjoy certain bits of it helps you in coming up with a unique set of features that can become your identity. Conversely, if we all try to make the perfect artwork, we will all land up in the same place. We will all land up at the peak of a fantastic mountain, and all our skill levels will be identical. And then we will start coming down the mountain from different angles to establish that one spot where you can say, look, this is me. From wherever you look, you will be able to see me. This is how my painting looks. So both ways, I suppose, are good. You must be able to paint at a high skill level also, so that you can predictably come to your style. But in the process of that, you should not let go of those few things that can become your identity by dismissing them flippantly, thinking that maybe they're not important. This painting might look good even without black color, now that I'm making it with just these lines. Did any of you manage to write about Monet last week after our class? I just about had time to finish all the painting, but yesterday I took some time and wrote that thing. And it was good fun, huh? This just exploring on the net, getting more information. There is so much, and people have written wonderful articles on all these art movements. In this section over here on the right, towards the hand, there seem to be two tones of blue. So use a light wash for that tone. If you can avoid using white, do that, because white is not as opaque as one would like it to be to paint in this painting. Okay, how's everyone else doing? It's almost 10:20, 11:25. You want me
I
to?
tried one more.
Oh, wow. Isn't this just beautiful? I love this graphic style.
Yeah, I somehow tried, doing the pink ink,
Yeah.
and then I got the watercolors in between. It was a very different experience for me. I just picked it up and I said, let's try with the ink, how it goes.
Oh, I think it's lovely.
You used oil pastels, Ritika? What do you
Yeah,
use?
I use this ink, fountain pen ink, to create that pink one.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There are videos of Picasso painting against a piece of glass. Have you seen that? He takes white paint and he paints on glass in reverse, and you see as if he's painting it in air. Let me see if I can find the video. It is so beautiful.
That's my cat.
Oh my, that is so cute.
She's sitting with my palette and the pen stand.
Wonderful. Okay, here's
Ah.
there are a bunch of these videos.
Oh my, look how easily he's painting. Oh God.
Yeah, but see now, after doing the painting that you've done right now, you will be able to paint like that because there's such little expectation from the line. In today's paintings, your lines could have been even, like I said, we normally look at 19 bees. Today they could have been 10 bees, 15 bees, whatever amount of error. It won't make a difference to the final appeal of the painting. So try some more of these if you want, just easy paintings. This is a very nice topic for even a journal. If you take a small 20, 30 page journal and explore maybe the first half, you could just explore existing portraits by not just Picasso, you have other artists as well. Let me do a search on. Just remember that this became a big movement afterwards also. So you may get a bunch of paintings that are contemporary, like this teddy bear is definitely not something that was painted during that time. Google search will throw all sorts of things like that. But look at this one. This one is a very nice. Even if it's fake, I'm not sure whether it's truly from a Cubist era. It looks too well defined to be that, but the recall is the same. This one is, I know. I don't think this could be Picasso only, because there was a time when he used cardboard or brown paper as part of his paintings, and then also text blocks. And then the more they explored, the more they broke up and fragmented all of the images. So there is one painting which is called Nude descending staircase. I love this painting. I never thought of this painting as very beautiful in the beginning, but in this, how, so I think this is more digital. Maybe this is the one. Now I can't even tell. There are so many replicas. See, this is a replica of the idea. Even Calvin and Hobbes has done a replica of this nude descending staircase. Here they have fragmented movement and shown a body descending a staircase step by step, as if you were to put maybe 50 animation cells, one on top of the other, and see them all together, they will show you this kind of movement. So, descending staircase was, I think this was, let me look at Calvin. This is his. So yeah, Varsha has also finished it. Oh my, so pretty. This is just beautiful. I love the colors. This could make such a lovely series of postcards to put up in the house, no?
Yeah.
Very nice. So this is the argument of appeal versus necessarily skill. I'm not saying that Picasso wasn't skilled. He was extremely skilled. I love how his earlier paintings were fabulous. If you look at those paintings, it's almost like how many other painters also started out. I think in 2021 or 22, we learned about, oh my God, the guy who painted those squares. I can't believe the name just came and went. Those squares in primary colors.
Pete Mondrian.
Pete Mondrian, correct. Somebody's put Gustav Klimt in my head. They wanted to paint a Gustav Klimt, so it's there in my head for 5 days. Yeah, so Pete Mondrian, earlier paintings look like any other artist's work. And then he moved away and he captured his spot of the limelight. Similarly, with Picasso, his earlier paintings look like any other artist, and then he carved a niche for himself elsewhere. So many of these artists whose later work has become famous, if you trace back and look at their earlier work, if you were to stand right in front of that work in a gallery, you wouldn't recognize it, because we recognize them more for their identifiable style later on. So it's worth an exploration. Okay, so that's it for today. I will finish my picture and I'll share it later. Please try to read up a little bit and write a small note behind this book. I've also shared, I'll share the questions also that I have given you, the what, where, when, why series of questions. And you can use that for absolutely anything in life. Yeah, note down some more things about the artists. Find some more artists also, maybe some Indian artists who also had similar styles, and try to replicate those and study those. There is one period when they did a lot of monochromatic work. Picasso did a lot of blue painting, and then along with George Braque, where they tried to even remove color as an aspect of painting and reality, and keep that unidimensional in a sense by keeping it monochromatic. So three-dimensional form became fractured two-dimensional form, and vibrancy of color was removed, stripped away, and kept monochromatic. So maybe you can look out for those as well and try making those. They're also good fun. All right. Arya, no questions from you today?
Yeah, actually, I've been trying to draw and I haven't been able to finish it yet, but I will finish it and show you on Saturday.
Okay. Now I'm want to ask you, how many times have you been erasing?
Not too many times, but like I had to erase at some points.
All right. I'm just going to tell you, if you need to erase, first make the line that is corrected and then erase
Okay,
the line that you think is wrong. Okay.
got it.
All right. Okay, so I will catch you all 2 weeks from now because next week we won't have class. I am going to Bombay to watch Mamma Mia. So in the meantime, you have plenty of artists to look for and replicate. And in the next 2 weeks, if you can share more work, like Varsha had asked for Van Gogh, which I have just completely conveniently skipped. And Shivani has shared Vermeer, which I don't know whether we
Yeah.
could do it, but we can always attempt. If there are any other artists that you would like to, or even designers like William Morris, I'd rather do new people than repeat the same. If we don't find anyone appealing, then we always have something from the past that we can pick up. But I'm sure we'll get something new. Okay. All right.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
See
Have
you
a nice
then. Bye,
Sunday.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.